Hello and welcome to the show. This week's Downhill Chaos, we start with the Skoda Octavia VRS estate. I do quite like the VRS Skodas. It's a shame we don't see them in more games. I'd love to see them in like Forza and so on. I saw this mod on the on the GTA 5 mods website I use. Thought I would give it a shot. The estate cars have been represented quite well the last few weeks, which is always good to see. This opening run, well, I managed to clear both of the hikers. Admittedly, in doing so, may have carried a little too much speed and immediately rolled it afterwards. Even the curse of the hikers, when I managed to just about clear them, it's still in full effect. When I scare them, it seems we're going to tumble our way down the mountain, losing some bodywork as we go. Yeah, it's a fairly easy mistake to make on these early sections. You want to carry speed over them, but it's so easy to kind of mess up the landings of the jumps, and then things are going to go wrong. It's such a narrow part of the course. Next attempt, and pushing a little bit too hard through one of the corners, got the Skoda up onto two wheels and tumbling around. We do land it, kind of, eventually. We may have ever so slightly rolled the Skoda. Did do a pretty good job of rolling. Managed to lose the back end completely over. I don't think I've ever had a car quite let go in such a way on that part of the course. Pushed my luck a little bit too much on that bit. Just lost the back end and then trying to catch it, it twitched, and we were on such a narrow piece of road here that when things do start to go wrong, I do love that I managed to get between the trees though. Now, and that's some quite good aiming there. But when things go wrong at the speeds you're doing down this course, they tend to go quite spectacularly wrong with whatever vehicle it is that you're driving. This one perhaps less of the spectacular, really. I kind of just mispositioned myself ever so slightly for the jumps. I'm trying to avoid the bush there that's on the landing on the left-hand side of the course. I was too far to the right though, and as we left the jump, it was kind of twisting, and I didn't quite have time to recover it. So I somehow managed to roll, and I've parked surprising. Normally when you roll here, you go flying off the mountain. Very rare to have your car parked so neatly on its roof in the middle of the road. This next attempt, I was on two wheels, tried to stop it from rolling, and probably didn't steer enough, and then we rolled anyway when I hit some rocks on the outside. That's quite a notorious place for faster cars, for getting up onto two wheels or cars with a large amount of grip. And the rolling continued. Again, another very, very common place to have vehicles roll over when you're pushing it a little bit too hard. All you have to do is kind of brush the mound on the inside there. We'll put the car up onto two wheels, and yeah, sure enough, the Skoda went over. It took a little while to get a clean run out of this vehicle. The Skoda, this replaces the ingot. I had to use the power multiplier a bit to try and give it some speed. It's still, it's not a massively quick vehicle, even with a 10 times power multiplier that I put on it. It's still not massively quick. I'm thinking perhaps it's quite a heavy vehicle. Either way, it drives quite nicely. I quite liked driving this car. It did have the estate car rollover-ish. I think all of the estate cars I've had so far, the Insignia rolled over, the M3 rolled over. The Daewoo had bush issues. Daewoo had massive problems with the bushes. The Daewoo flew very, very nose down, so that had its own. The estate cars like to roll over, basically, on GTA 5. This one probably been the best of the lot for not rolling over, and it's quite a nice car to drive. It deals with the bumps very, very well. It deals with these landings and so on very, very well, and it's a nice enough handling car. A little bit down on power, and even with me cheating in some extra power for it, it's a pretty nice car to drive. Got to watch out for the rolling. The bushes weren't too much of an issue. Like down here, I could kind of get away with a little bit of clipping the bushes, and the car was absolutely fine. We're not getting on two wheels around that second to last very, very bumpy corner, and I could be flat out around the final turn, and the Skoda is across the line and brought under control all very neatly, which is rare. It is rare to be able to get the vehicles under control down there, as they tend to either end up in a tree or go skittering their way down the dirt. Yeah, it's a nice vehicle, this one, to drive down Chiliad. I think I got one scratch on the rear bump or the rear quarter there, and the rest of it pretty damn good condition for a car that's just gone down Chiliad and survived the jump at the bottom as well. Pretty good condition. Up next, we've got another Batmobile. Yes, we had the very modern Batmobile go down, And, well, that was an interesting thing to drive. I saw this, I think the same guy's done a whole range of the Batmobiles. This one here, we've got a working siren and everything. The 1966 Batmobile, I was curious to see how this one would fare. Would it do better than the modern one or not? I will be honest, things went quite wrong very, very quickly with this. I wasn't quite expecting the speed, and yeah, we found one of those arsey bushes, and the front end just clipped the bush, and that was it. It just pulled the front of the car down and flipped. That is, I think, the record for the earliest I have managed to crash a car. Just immediately the Batmobile went quite badly wrong down there. The next attempt was equally spectacular. As I said, I mean, we've seen plenty of cars roll through that corner. They tend not to roll as viciously as that, though. It was a very, very vicious roll, that one. Very, very quick. Again, same place where we had a roll with the Skoda. This time I didn't quite roll the car. I did stop it in time, but it was enough to throw it out of position. And then you're never going to get the landing neatly. The hike is fine. It's got an interesting story to tell of getting hit by a flying Batmobile. The bushes were not kind to this. They were really, really not kind to this particular car. This time around, though, didn't need to have worried about them, as we'd all lost control long before we never hit them. I was, again, pushing it a little too hard. There was a lot of speed in this car. Very, very quick accelerating vehicle, this. And my attempts to carry said speed down that little side road didn't quite work. We lost control of it fairly big time on that one. Again, trying to run the bankings a little bit too much, asking too much of the car, and we end up with a slightly less spectacular roll. One of the lesser spectacular rolls I think we've seen, and then we are kind of just sliding our way down the mountain. Nothing I can do, absolutely nothing I can do when it's sliding down here on this roof. There's no interest of righting itself. So yeah, that was not a particularly good place to end up. This is what I was talking about with the Bishop. I mean, you can see it initially pulling the car, but you're just going down there, you're holding straight on the steering, and it will suddenly flick the car kind of 90 degrees to the right there. You can't stop that. There's nothing you can do to stop that. You have to avoid the bushes. So that was, yeah, you couldn't really carry that much speed. I've had various vehicles that could get away with kind of almost straight lining that side bit, running through the bushes. This is not one of them. On the actual run, you see how far I get it up onto two wheels around that first sort of downhill corner. Yeah, this thing would go on two wheels quite nicely as well. And again, a long way on two wheels. Managed to hold it. Also, I was very surprised. As you saw there, I was running... It's kind of running along the edge of the ridge, and somehow it all got away with it. Normally, if you run like that, especially with a car like this, okay, it's got a little bit of ride height to it, but when you're running along that edge, normally it's going to clip the back of the car and fire it up into the air. Somehow I got away with all of that. As I did say, this thing is monstrously fast accelerating. This is a really very, very quick vehicle. So you've got to try and make the most of the acceleration as and where you can, and pretty good grip as well. Handles the turns very, very well. I mean, you can see the suspension is quite nice and compliant. It's actually a very good all-round car, this thing, for dealing whether you be driving on tarmac or driving down, you know, Mt Chiliad. It deals very, very well. Okay, you're not going to be able to take that flat out. It's not. Very, very few cars can. But yeah, you got to be aware of the bushes. But everywhere else, this is a very, very good car overall for this kind of thing. As we come up towards the second to last corner, I was a little bit wary of it going up on two wheels, but we had no problems. Again, carry the speed through the final turn and fly it across the finished jump, and the Batmobile will come to a stop. I think there's a slightly wonky dirt mapping on one door that doesn't appear. Either that, or someone in the Batcave has got a door from another Batmobile and put it on this one, and it's a slightly wrong colour. But yeah, this was a great vehicle, actually. This was a great vehicle to drive down Chiliad. Had good suspension, great acceleration, good brakes. Just got to be aware of the bushes liking to screw you over. You could roll it as well if you got things a little bit wrong. And our final vehicle for the day, a Lotus Exige. Now, you would expect this to be potentially fast anyway, down this course. Of course, the Lotus is not exactly built for, well, going off-road, but also cars in GTA 5. Most vehicles can get away with going off-road. So, yeah, I was kind of expecting this thing to be pretty damn fast. And certainly there is plenty of acceleration, and the brakes on this thing are phenomenal. It gets stopped so well. This is a really very, very good car. It's getting slowed down. On this very first run, you see it bouncing around a little bit on two wheels. Again, we've got good acceleration in the Lotus. More two-wheeled action, but it was never really enough to cause a huge concern until that moment. I was kind of, after the first bits, I kind of got away with it going a bit on its side. I thought, we'll be fine, carry the speed. Wasn't fine. Shouldn't have carried the speed that I did through there, because that put it up on to two wheels. In the next attempt, well, things went even more wrong. I said about the Batmobile not being very good at going through the bushes. This is even worse. Now, that sort of incident was caused by the front of the car clipping the bush on the inside. Now, I've never had that problem at that part of the corner. Never had an issue with the front of the car clipping the bush through there. This next attempt, I just got too brave with the with the brakes. I was pushing it quite hard, because you could really get away with braking so late with the Exige. Managed to tip the car sideways into that corner, and then we see what the bushes will do when you get things wrong. So that is a line I've taken with plenty of cars before. This thing just scrapes one of them, and it yanks the car sideways and pretty much stops it dead. This is by far the most affected by the bushes of any vehicle I've ever seen. So I carry too much speed over the jump, and whoop, we're just going to stop. So it's got all that momentum. That is such a fast part of the course here. We see so many cars go cartwheeling off and down the side of the mountain. That one starts the cartwheeling, hits the bush, and stops dead. That's, the bushes were a real issue with this car. I'm not quite sure what it is. I think perhaps it could be weight of the vehicles. This thing, well, being an Exige, is probably going to be quite light. It might be something to do with the weight that causes issues, or just the way that some models react to it, or the way some handling files react to it. Either way, this absolutely hates the bushes around the course. You just can't go near them. As soon as you go near them, it's either going to stop you dead, spin you out, or either way it's going to ruin the run, whatever it is that it does. Like through here, you can't run wide on the exit of the hairpin there, because you're going to hit the bush and just be completely and utterly stopped, lose all of your momentum. In between the bits where I was having to be incredibly careful, this was a very, very quick car. In between those sections, this had decent enough grip and very, very good brakes. It didn't quite deal with the bumps as well as we have seen from some vehicles, and that's perhaps not too surprising considering what it is. You saw it getting chucked around a little bit, and the landings of the jumps it doesn't quite like as much as we have seen from some cars. It makes up for some of that, certainly, with the phenomenal brakes. Like down here, got to be really careful, got to be really precise. You can't get away with anything through that section. And again, around here, the bumps cause it some big issues. Trying to get the power down, trying to make the most of the car, and we do get a little bit of a slide out of there. When it is unleashed very, very quick, unfortunately, they're slightly unleashed in towards a tree, which is less than ideal for the Exige. And then we go rolling down the mountain slightly on our roof. A very, very quick car, this one, and a lovely car to drive as well. But the bumps are a little too much for the little Lotus. The bushes, though, are the biggest problem. You have got absolutely no margin for error with them. You're going to have to be incredibly precise, because, as I said, and as you saw with that flip, a car travelling at whatever miles an hour flipping through the air, and the bushes stop it pretty much dead. That's, some unfortunate for that vehicle. On to the times, and it is a quick time from the Batmobile, a 122.9. It puts it just behind a Cheetah, a little bit faster than a modified Rancher, quicker than the Osiris. It's a quick vehicle. It's not as quick as the Brawler or the Insurgent, interestingly. But the Batmobile is a good vehicle, a good overall vehicle as well. Again, another one that the bushes didn't like particularly, but overall, that's a pretty good vehicle for exploring off-roading and just sort of general driving around. And of course, it's a Batmobile, so it's infinitely cooler than the other vehicles. A little bit further down, we find the Lotus Exige, still a pretty damn good time, a 125.6. A little slower than the Dumpster. It's just under a second slower than the Aston Martin and the Karuma, the Evo 6 kind of area. It is quicker than the Lotus 49. Interestingly, though, that did have quite a few issues with going off-road. Yeah, the Exige is a good car. I would love to have been able to push it a little bit more had it not been for those horrendous bushes. We also would have lost some time on the bumps. Like, comparing it to the Batmobile deals with the bumps so much better than the Exige. You could see how much the Lotus was being chucked sideways and just losing those little bits of time through some of the bumpier corners. But still, 25.6 is a very, very good time. And we find the Skoda a little further down in 53rd place, a 134.2. It is a fairly crowded area around this part of the table. It beats the Chevrolet Kilter, it beats the Windsor, it beats also the modern Batmobile. The modern Batmobile was not particularly fast. Those handling issues made it quite difficult to drive. It beats the Hummer, it beats the Daewoo as well. 54.2 is not too bad for that car. I think it was just not quite quick enough, and we had a few rollover issues, which meant I couldn't really attack some of the corners. So it finds itself a little bit down the order, but still, I do quite like the Skoda. Anyway, that is it for this video. I will put a link to all of the mods that I have used in the description so you can download them, have a go with them yourself. But that is it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.